I'm McKinney Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real-life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. Thank you for joining us on the Heal Her podcast, HEAL. Honor, elevate, and love her podcast, formerly known as the You Walk in My Stilettos podcast, the top 1.5% most popular show globally, where we have conversations with extraordinary women on their journey toward wholeness and harmony. And since you're already here, you may as well subscribe. As a certified mindset coach guiding women towards peace, clarity, and connection within, supporting the direction of the system toward wholeness, my goal here is to help you thrive. Dr. Joan Wright-Good is a mother of two, recently widowed. She's an international speaker, preacher, business coach, best-selling author, and award-winning CEO specializing in training and teaching the art of being who you were created to be. Joan is the founder and creative director of the Business Mogul Academy, where she teaches, coaches, and helps students and clients start businesses and publish books. As CEO and founder of JWG Publishing House, she writes and publishes books and magazines. She's been featured on Forbes, Fox 26 News, Sheen, Black Enterprise, RollingOut, The Tom Joyner Show, Huffington Post, and more. So please welcome to the show, Dr. Joan Wright-Good.
Thank you, McKinney, for having me again. I love your platform, and it would have been remiss if I didn't take up this offer. I really appreciate you and the work you're doing for women all over the world. Please do not take this for granted. Women all over the world need you, and they need this platform, and they need this podcast. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to come back on and share more of your story and your journey with us and your evolution since the last time you were on the podcast. You know, I definitely feel blessed. I'm going to say the first 2 years of the podcast, I reached out to women that I know that are in my network that are doing amazing things that, you know, I'm inspired by, that I know are resilient. And you blessed me by coming on and sharing your story then. And you have a new book, and I wanted you to, you know, come back and share the growth of Joan and your healing journey, and you know, give us an update of things that have happened since. So I guess before we get to that point, for the listeners who are listening now that didn't have the opportunity to listen to the first episode, you know, just give us a quick Coles Notes version of your story and how you got to where you are presently.
Okay, so I'll see if I can make it really, really quick. So for those of you who did not get to listen to the first podcast that I was on, I am a native of Jamaica. I am now a U.S. citizen. I have been here, I want to say maybe 15 or more years now. But backstory, I was born and raised in Kingston, Jamaica, went through the quote unquote foster care system. We don't call it foster care there, but I was a ward of the state at the age of 3 or 4, I believe. And so I grew up in Maxfield Park Children's Home. I was stolen from that home, sent to the country, grew up with my grand aunt, got raped at the age of 11, started experiencing mental illness as a result, because I was a church girl, baptized at age 6 or whatever. They thought I had demons. So instead of trying to get me help, which I will say is one of the biggest things that every woman should get when you know that you need help, don't be afraid to get help. So I didn't get help. So what they did, they just shipped me back to Kingston to go live with my mother, who at the time had other children. So here I am, had experienced abandonment in the home, didn't have any family, don't know who my dad is, didn't see my mom, sent to somewhere else and back with my siblings who don't know me. So just kind of imagine what kind of world that was for me. Very, very tumultuous and traumatic. And so now I'm back in Kingston, don't have no school to send me to. God allowed me to go to one of the best high school in Kingston. And fast forward, I dropped out of high school after being like at the top of my class in everything, even track and field, not just with schoolwork. Dropped out of high school in fifth form when I was sitting my last exams, got pregnant because, again, growing up, I didn't know what love was, didn't know, so the first person who touched me or said they loved me, I was like, okay, boop, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I got pregnant. My daughter's 31 now. Praise God. And, so looking for love in all the wrong places, went back to church, thought I found love, got married. That was abusive. And then thought that God redeemed me. And you know what? I won't say I thought that, because I believe everything in my story was for a reason. It was for a purpose. I've learned so much. So many women have said to me, oh my gosh, you're so inspiring. I can't, they want me to tell them how I got through. And honestly, I don't know. It's all God. It is all God, because the public shame, the divorce was in the media. It was all over. It was everywhere. And then getting remarried and went through 11 years of marriage, 12 years of being together. And my second husband passed. So now here it is. I'm a widow. And McKinney, just wanted to interject that in all of this, I never once lost hope, never once lost faith, never once not show up for my business. Yes, I created boundaries in the business, but I used all of my experiences to help my business grow and to help my clients. And so even the last time when we spoke, our business grew exponentially. I moved from making $1 million to a year to making $1 million in 2 weeks. I literally was able to bring my clients with me to show them how that is done. So to God be the glory. Here we are today.
Wow. I mean, the first time we spoke, I thought, your story is inspiring and you're resilient, but it's like hearing the recap. It was a very powerful punch. I said this to you the last time we spoke, I'm sorry that you had to experience such trauma, but at the same time, like you said, you've been able to turn that around and use that to push yourself, but also to help lift others up in the process.
Yes.
And with having, a traumatic childhood and dealing with all the things that you've even dealt with in your adult life, it's been a lot. And some people, how do I say this? Some people on the outside looking in would be like, wow, I could never handle that, or I, wouldn't have been able to make it through. But at the end of the day, we never know how much we can handle until we're in the situation, right? Our resilience muscle is built over time, and you have had to strengthen that resilience muscle over and over and over again.
Oh God, even when I thought I could not. I was talking to my therapist, and I was telling her, I remember one night when I was so overwhelmed with everything that was going on, I could not sleep and I could not pray. Okay, let's not sugarcoat stuff. Mm-hmm. I could not even pray. I couldn't open my mouth. And the only thing I could do, I got up, I sat on the edge of my bed, and I just started bawling to God. I just started crying. I was like, God, I can't take this no more. I can't do it. And in the middle of crying out to him, I heard him so audibly saying, this will not end how you think it will. And he told me exactly how it would. And can I tell you, it ended exactly like he said, even though I didn't want him to end it that way. And even when I tell people, I mean, chill, they're like, oh my God. Like I go into the full story. Obviously, I can't go into here, but when you're sold out to Christ and when you give him everything, because the thing is, sometimes we try to fight it in our flesh. We try to go back to what we knew worked then, but I don't, listeners, how many of you know that what worked in 2018 will not work in 2023?
That's right. That's right.
So the tools you had back then, you have to either sharpen them or replace them.
Yes.
And we hate to replace tools. We get, we hold on to the memories. Sometimes you really, really have to let go. And I tell people, that you've let go when the things that used to trigger you, they trigger you no more. You see them and you can kiss them goodbye. You can say hi, hello, so you have to get to that place where you're no longer triggered or you're no longer holding on to what used to work. You have to empty yourself. You literally have to die to yourself. And I tell my clients, dead people feel no pain. So if you're feeling pain, it means you haven't died to that situation yet.
Wow. Powerful. Powerful. I agree with you with, being able to, or I guess having to let go of certain things because we are constantly re-triggering ourselves, reliving and ruminating on those past scenarios, those past situations, those things that have caused us that pain. And some people are addicted to basically like reliving those things. I heard a stat recently that said 95% of people are focused on memory and is it memory and trauma? I can't remember the exact quote, but basically they're so focused on the past and only 5% are focused on the future and vision. There's so many people that are constantly re-triggering themselves by living through that over and over again. Considering that you've had so much trauma since you were a young girl, like what would you say that you learned about emotions and how has that helped or hurt you?
Oh, wow. That's a loaded question. I think one of the biggest things that I learned about emotions is that they lie to you. I've learned that your emotions are not factual. And so even though something is factual, it doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
Right. Your emotions will tell you that you're hurting. But when you really check it, are you really hurting or were you ashamed? Were you disappointed? And sometimes we allow disappointment to build up offense. And I like to say offense is like building a fence that keeps you out of the truth and trap you into a lie. So you have to ask yourself, was this offensive or am I offended? Because a lot of times we get offended because of our own doing. It's what we put on that person. We expect someone to act a particular way. And when they don't, then we get offended. Why? They never told you that they had the ability to act this way. They never told you they had the ability to love you how you are expecting to be loved. So our expectations is what get us in trouble sometimes with our emotions. And that's why our emotions lie to us. Your emotion will tell you that you're in love when it's just lust. And so you have to know that you cannot pay attention to your emotions. Your emotions, they're like something that you see with your eyes that are telling you something else that you know in your head that's not how it appears. And so you cannot follow your emotions. You have to follow your gut feeling. You have to follow what you know. You have to follow what God said about you and about the situation. So I've learned not to rely on my emotions. Like, my emotions this morning said, lay in bed another hour.
Same.
But I know that I had this podcast. I'm like, I'm going to get up. Okay. You're not going to ruin it. I got a whole day to get to. So yes, emotions will lie to you. So this is why it's very important for us to be emotionally intelligent. We teach everything. You're a coach. I'm a coach. We teach everything from money to spiritual, everything. But how many people are teaching people how to be emotionally balanced? How to watch for things that will lie to you. It's very important for us to get to the place where we can manage our emotions and know that we don't choose with our eyes. We choose with our ears. What has God said? What are the things that you know about you that your emotions may be telling you opposite right now?
Yeah, I fully agree with you where our minds are liars. They lie to us all the time and emotions are fleeting. They come and go.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important not to make major long-term decisions when you're upset, right?
Yeah.
Because we're in our feelings in that moment. I had read one time, one of the trauma books I was reading, where it was talking about, based on a person's, I guess, your state, I guess if you're feeling sad, or even based on your past experiences, if you've had certain things that have happened, your perception of a situation or a person's facial expression, or something simple, can be perceived as negative and offensive because of the story that's already going on in our head.
Yes.
So our perception it may be our truth in that moment, but because of how we are receiving it through our triggers and our insecurities, it's like you said, it's not actual, like what actually happening.
There you go. That's why 5 people can walk away from the same situation and feel differently.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I was saying this to not only my sibling, but another friend of mine, where children can grow up in the same household and experience their parents differently.
Yes.
You know, one child can feel completely loved and balanced and you name it, but then the other child, because of their perception and their insecurities and even the time in which the parent had them, based on the parent's evolution, can experience that parent differently. So I love that you pointed that out about, you know, our difference in perspectives and our feelings and how we perceive things. Because I think sometimes people are quick to say, well, you know, this is the situation, this is how I saw it, this is what it is. But if they were to even look at that situation at a different moment in time, or while they're feeling a different emotion, they may view that situation differently.
And just to segue, when we treat the situation like that, that is what will allow us to forgive and forgive quickly. When you can realize that this person was probably having an experience of that allowed them to do the thing from their trauma, then you realize that this person, I got to forgive them because they need healing. They need help. You know, they didn't necessarily mean it to happen this way. They were acting from their trauma, from the place that they haven't been healed. I often say it doesn't matter how old we get. How old we get is not indicative of how mature we become. Absolutely. Of how healed we have been healed. Because you can be 57 and stuck at 7-year-old when that first trauma happened that you never got over. And so you see the entire world from that lens. And from that 7-year-old lens, you can't trust nobody. Everybody's out to hurt you. If this person is too nice, they're up to something because of what you've been through. But you're 57, you know. So, yeah.
I agree 1000%. I often say that healed people hear differently.
They do.
You know, someone could say something, and you and I, because we've done the work and we've worked, you know, the personal development and the evolution, we're not fazed by what that person has said or even what they've done, right? We're not quick to take offense. But someone else who has, you know, they are still working through their traumas or feeling insecure, they will quickly be offended by what is said or what is done.
Yes.
But you mentioned that, so the last time I saw you was pre-pandemic. You had an event here in Toronto.
Yes.
I met some amazing people from that event, by the way. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was amazing. I'm coming back in July, but yeah, that was an amazing event.
Oh, okay. Well, we definitely need to connect. So much has changed since then. And so you just mentioned that you, you know, became a widow. So the husband that you were married to at the time, I got to meet him at the event. I guess there is so much that we could learn, not just from relationships, but, you know, even when you're in a relationship with someone and you're doing business with them and they pass away, like there's so many lessons, I believe, that you may have learned.
Yes.
This time. What are some lessons that you would love to share with the listeners today?
There's so many lessons that I learned while married and even after losing my husband. And that's one of the reasons why I penned the book, The Miseducation of Widowhood, 10 Things Every Wife Should Know About Managing, Coping, and Dealing with the Journey. The thing about this is that everybody who's read it, they're like, girl, this ain't just for wives and widows. Like, somebody read it, she was like, I'm all up in my feelings. I should have asked these questions before. But I'll share a few things that I spoke about. So after each chapter, I share a lesson that I learned. And the first lesson I wrote was, what you don't handle in dating will show up in the marriage. What is not handled in the marriage will show up in life. What you don't handle in life and in your marriage will show up in death.
Mm.
So it's very important for us to make sure that we're having the hard conversations. I know in dating, it's all about butterflies and, all the fluffy things. And so we never, ever get to the more serious questions. And a lot of times we're surprised and we say, this person has changed, but did they really? Did they really change? Or we refuse to ask the important questions. We refuse to, we saw that yellow light that was about to turn red, and we're like, okay, because we beat the light, we're okay. No, anything that looks like it's going to distort, you have to deal with it in the early stages. You save yourself heartache, you save yourself money, you save yourself friendships and relationship. You even save yourself tears if that person passes, because then, what kind of eternity that person will have. One of the other lesson I shared is the painful things you hate to discuss will find you eventually. Young couples tend to use their formative years discussing the rosier things in marriage, the happy things. Very rarely do couples discuss the uncomfortable stuff. Marriage is more than TikTok videos, cute pics, and couple goals. Take time to discover the history of your spouse. What you don't know may hurt both you and them. You'd be surprised at how many couples confess to not knowing as much as they thought they did about their partner years into the marriage. What you fail to research and or ask about can be the nucleus for life and death. Leave no stones unturned, even if it makes you sad while you both are alive. Sadness is temporary. Unfortunately, death is permanent.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
That is very powerful, especially that last line.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, how do I say this? I feel like a lot of people are afraid to ask those hard questions.
I know.
A lot of people are afraid to have those uncomfortable conversations because they're so focused on, they want to maintain that honeymoon phase or stay in that place. But the longevity of the relationship, and like you said, a lot of people, they're coming into this relationship with their own baggage, right?
Yeah.
They're coming in with their own traumas, their own insecurities. And if you don't ask those questions, if you don't know their history, if you don't know, then you're not going to understand their behavior when they start acting out of their trauma response. And then you're going to take offense, and then it's going to cause problems in the relationship.
Let me give you a perfect example. I used to, my deceased husband used to be triggered by, every time his mom would get sick and I would say, okay, let's talk about what will happen if she passes. He was so triggered by that. And I couldn't figure out why I said to him, death is inevitable. We have to talk about it. But he was so triggered and I couldn't figure out why, right? It was after we got through the dating process and marriage, I realized that he was an adoptee. That, it wasn't his birth mom. And so he struggled with abandonment. And so anytime you mention anything that would look like he would go back to the stage of where he was abandoned by his real parents was an issue. Right. But I didn't know. And so it was asking the hard questions and even offering, do you want me to assist you with finding your birth family? What does that look like? But I will say, if that person truly loves you, the honeymoon phase will never end. So asking the hard question is not going to push them away, right? If that person is already invested, it will not push them. If those hard questions push them away, then that person was not the person for you.
Right.
They're not, because the conversations need to be had. After the great sex and the trips and the pictures and what you're going to just sit and look at each other. You know what I'm saying? You have to.
We're not cute 1,000% of the time, as much as we'd like to be.
Right. So life starts lifing, and the unfortunate thing is that usually when life starts lifing is when you realize you're not even ready for life. And so you don't want to wait until last. You really don't want to. Let me share this one with you, because this is not even about the relationship. Now this is about us. Lesson 8 says the best asset you'll ever build in your life is you. You can build a home, a business, a marriage, and everything that you believe your identity is in. Some women love the idea of building. They like projects. However, until you build you, your building will be in vain. Build yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and financially so that you won't be in lack when the rug is removed from under you.
Yeah.
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 We have to build us. So too many times people believe, okay, now that I'm in a relationship, I see
No, too
you.
late.
Yeah.
Too late.
No, you have to continue building you because we change every year. We change every year. And let's not talk about that 10-year change that we all go through. When you start having gray hair, your hormones are all over you change.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is, you have to learn to build you during those times when you're changing. I also talked about having the hard conversations about money. Don't wait until, but in the book, and some people may agree or not agree, I say, just like we do SWOT analysis, you need to have those quarterly meetings, those monthly meetings. Okay, how have the finances changed? How is the life insurance going? Do we have separate life insurance? Do you have one at work? I've had people said to me, I didn't know that my husband had 2 separate life insurance policies until he passed. And I don't even know. Yeah. So ask the questions. Are we going to have 4 bank accounts? How are you have to ask the questions because you'll look up and you'll be cleaned out and you'll ask yourself, what happened? I thought he loved me, or I thought she loved me. Listen. Okay. What does love have to do with it?
Trust me, I get it.
I know you know. So
absolutely.
It's hard to do, but you have to continue build you. You have to continue invest in you, even when you're in love. It's not that you don't trust. It's none of those things, but you have to protect yourself. Even if you have children, it's even worse. If you are a nuclear family and you have children from other partners, is very imperative to have that financial conversation and have them monthly, quarterly, yearly, because again, things change, and y'all may have a fight and you think you're safe. You look up, he done switch your name and these things happen and you're like, you go to the bank, they're like, oh, you don't have access. Come on. It happens. It happens. Yeah, it happens.
You know what? When I was going through my divorce in 2009, I joked. I said it quite often, but I joked and I said, you never really know someone until you divorce them.
That is true. That is true. Oh my God.
Because who they are when you met them, who they are throughout the marriage is not who they are while going through the divorce.
You know what? I call it the double D effect. And I was quick when I was doing I did another interview. I was quick. I was like, I'm not talking about breast size, girls. I'm talking about death and divorce. Death and divorce is when you truly, truly get to know who you were entangled with. Those 2 Ds are like, it's crazy, the things you find out, the things you experience, the things that happen that really, really have to, now you have to take those and build your muscle to start. I like to call it a fresh start, a new start, a do-over. Now that you've gotten this information, God has given you an opportunity to do it over again, but do it wisely this time. Wisely this time. Oh God, I love seeing new spouses and young people, but I look at them and I clutch my pearls. I'm like, bless their hearts, because if they're not equipped, this is true. If they're not equipped for life, that's going to happen after the boohoo crying and I met my soulmate kind of thing. Life will crush them. Life will crush them. So it's very important. And that's why it's important for each partner in the relationship or in the marriage to build themselves individually so that you can, when you come together, you're a strong unit, you're a strong team. You can build a marriage, you can build a business, you can make sure that when you go into these things, you're doing it wisely. And I'll say this, I know you're probably wrapping up. Couples need to understand the importance when they're in business together of creating a trust. You want to create a trust. I think there are like 7 kinds of trust. There's living trust, spendthrift trust. There's several trusts, but you want to go ahead and research this because it makes life easier if you have to split or if your partner dies, right? It makes life so much easier. Nobody has to fight. Oh God, you'll be amazed. People fighting over sheets and towels.
We fought over an iron.
Listen, I had to break up fight over my husband's shoes. You know, who wants to get, so it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, but when you create a trust, it governs. You don't own the things, you just manage them. So,
Right.
you know, when I came into these knowledge, like my LLCs, my houses, cars, everything that I own is under the trust. I don't own nothing. So people can't sue me for nothing. You know, nobody who's not rightly affiliated to me can't get stuff. The trust owns it. And then if anything should happen to me, then my attorney and, you know, all the legal things will come into effect. So everybody can rightly be, you know, rewarded, awarded, compensated, whatever. So yeah.
Wow.
I have all those
definitely
financial
some great advice.
Yes. Yeah. So I have all those little financial advice in the book as well, because I didn't want it to be a book of fluff. I do talk about my husband and, you know, the great person he was and the life he could have had, you know. I tell people I don't mourn my husband's death. I mourn the life he could have had, you know, and you have to be deep to understand that. Yeah. But, you know, his life was a lesson to me as well. You know, so here I am, I'm blazing the trail and I'm helping women, even with the death of my husband. I'm using that to help women.
You are definitely a light in this world. And, you know, it's not easy to publicly grieve. And it's not easy to, like, I struggled even just writing the one chapter about my sister's passing in my book.
Wow.
Like emotional trauma of having a breakdown every time I sat down to write that chapter. I know it's not easy to write a book about it. So I commend your strength and the work that you're doing in this world. I guess what advice would you give to someone that has just lost a loved one?
Wow, that's a good question. What I would say is that, first of all, you cannot. I know a lot of times when people lost loved ones, they tend to internalize the grief, and they internalize things that they could have done and regrets and all of that. I often tell people sometimes it does sound jarring, but guess what? You could not rewrite anything. You're not God, and God knew from the beginning that this person would have, you know, gone this way. And so you could not, even if you thought that it was an accident, and if you had turned the car this way or that way, you could not have stopped the hand of God. It had to happen. God has allowed you to go through this so that you can eventually help someone. But take the time. If it's 10 years, I tell people that grief and mourning looks different, because there's some people who mourn but never grieve. And some people who grieve but never mourn. There's a difference. Yeah. So you have to identify the space that you're in and allow the process to take place. Allow the process to take place, and do not put expectations on people who don't understand what it means to lose. Do not. I did that, and I wrote about that. Like people who I expected to be at the funeral, people who I expected to reach out, people who I expected to give a gift, you know, that never happened. And I realized that I was putting my own expectation and the expectation of my husband on these people. And a lot of them were clueless. Before I had a loss, I was clueless on how to help somebody who was grieving. You know, I thought just saying prayers with you was enough until I got to that place, and that was not enough. So you have to give yourself grace, but moreover, you have to give people grace and understand that they don't know what you're going through. So take the time and get help. Get help if you need help. And writing. Journal your experience, because sometimes you're thinking that this is about writing a book. Sometimes it's healing for you. You'll be amazed how writing can help you heal, you know. So take the time, understand people, get help, educate yourself on your own mourning and grief process. Don't put a time limit on it, because time does not heal.
Agreed. You just get better at coping.
Yes, you get better at coping, but time does not heal. So don't put a time on it. And don't allow anyone either to put a time to tell you, girl, you should have been over that by now. Don't do that. Remove yourself from any space that don't allow you to grieve and to mourn correctly, right? And don't wallow in it as well. Know when you're going in too deep. And ask for help, you know, and set boundaries. I can't say it enough. Set boundaries. Okay.
I'm queen of boundaries these days. So.
Listen, set boundaries. Up, don't, can't do it. Don't, no, won't do it. Okay, yeah. Set boundaries. All right.
Yeah. No matter what you're going through in life,
Mm-hmm.
healthy boundaries are important.
Healthy boundaries are important. You have one life, you have one you. You have to govern and manage your health as much as how you manage your wealth and everything else, because at the end of the day, you're all you have.
Yes.
You are all you have. It doesn't matter how many friends or fans or foes you have. At the end of the day, you're all you have. You're going home by yourself. You came into this world by yourself. So take care of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said so many important things there that I wanted to highlight. Let's see how my memory serves me now. The journaling, I think, is underestimated, because sometimes, even if you feel like you can't speak to someone to let out your feelings, or you don't have the finances for professional help, journaling can tremendously help with your healing process, because you are able to express your feelings. Because when we suppress our feelings, we become more depressed.
Yes.
When we hold on to those feelings and we trap those emotions, we end up with the trauma body, the aches, the pains, the diseases, all those things.
Yes.
It builds up like a bad debt. So it's important to express those feelings. And if we don't feel comfortable sharing it with another human, having a safe space, a journal where we can write how we're feeling, a safe
not
space.
Judged. Your journal will not judge you.
Exactly.
You can write everything, say everything in that journal, and you will not be judged.
Yes.
That's the thing about journaling.
And that is one of the best things, because even if you're sharing it with someone that doesn't know you, or you're talking to a friend, some people may hold back because they feel like they're being judged, but the journal's not going to judge you. You can get it all out right there. Right. And that is your space where no one else has to read it. No one else has to see it. You could write, your darkest thoughts.
Yes.
No one else needs to read that. It's a safe space to express yourself. And then you spoke about grief and timelines. And I think that's also very important, because before my sister and my grandmother, who both passed away a year apart, before I lost them, mind you, I had lost aunts and uncles and, childhood friends. I didn't understand until that point, until the two people who were closest to me, until they passed, that you can't put a time on the grieving process. And that, there's I believe it's 5 levels or phases or whatever for grief. So, I was huge with the denial and isolation. There's the anger, the bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And it took me probably quicker than some of my other family members to accept my sister's passing, but that was because I continued to speak about it. I continued to express my feelings about it. I continued to share, and it allowed me to not only accept that she is gone, but to also find, I don't want to say the beauty in her passing, but it's almost like there's good and bad in everything. Right. And I honestly believe I would not be the woman that I am today had I not accepted her passing, because of the gifts that it brought me, in a sense of forcing me to become who I am, because she was my voice. I wouldn't have spoken up for myself then. If she was still here, I wouldn't have a podcast. I probably wouldn't have published books. I wouldn't be on stages. So despite losing her, it also came with many gifts and many blessings that I thank her for on a daily basis.
Amazing.
But you spoke to, goodness, you spoke to so many things, and I'm like, what do we have the time to unpack?
Well, let me tell you one that we can talk about. When people go through trauma, one of the reasons why it's important to put up boundaries is that it's if you don't properly heal, and if you don't put the boundaries up, you'll find yourself trauma bonding.
Yes.
You'll find people who are going through the same thing, and you bond with them, and you can misconstrue that, or some people say misconstrue that, to think that is love, when it's really just trauma bonding. Yes. You share similar experiences, and you think that this person sees you, knows you. And when that wears off, then again, you found yourself in another situation where, oh my God, I'm here again. It's because you never set boundaries and you never heal properly. So you trauma bond. instead of trauma healed. In the book, I walk women through how they can actually help themselves to move forward. So I talk about after that, you never move on. Some people say move on. You never move on, because as long as you are alive, you are still tied to that person. Your sister will always be your sister. Yeah. So you never move on, you move forward.
Yes.
So I explain the difference with moving forward and not trying to move on. A lot of people immediately after death, they remarry because they think they have to. And sometimes what that does, it puts a Band-Aid over something that needs surgery. Mm-hmm. You're trying to replace that person or that feeling real quickly. So I talk about moving forward and what that looks like. I say it will look different for everybody. I know particularly for me, after celebrating my husband for a year, I knew I did not want to ever be known as a widower. And so I didn't even put widow on my Facebook. I just put single. So sometimes it will take something drastic. If you want to put, that's fine, and it doesn't mean that somebody's thirsty. Just because somebody puts it, don't mean that means they're thirsty. It means they're now healing and they're taking accountability, accepting the loss, and they're doing little things that will help them to move forward. So there are times when I still go back and I'm going out, I put my ring on because I love my ring, and there are times when I don't wear it. It's just me sometimes remembering him, I put it on. So there are different things that you can do. So everybody goes through the process differently. So never kind of compare your process to somebody else's, and try to do what they're doing because maybe you think they're fine. No, nobody knows when I'm driving down the street and I'm hit with a memory, a song comes on, or weddings, just something comes on. And I'm like, I'm back to square one again. I know, for instance, that there's one particular song that he had sent me just days before he passed, that will stay with me forever, even if I remarry. And every time, just recently, I was driving back from a celebration with my girls, but the book was featured in Sheen magazine, and the song came on. Wow. And I just got dead quiet, and they're like, what's wrong? And I'm like, so you just give me a moment, mm-hmm. But that's what that does. Another time it came on, I was driving to my office and I literally had to pull over and weep like a baby. So just because you see somebody shining, it doesn't mean that, you can't judge your experiences and your healing process. So yeah, for me, I had to remove the whole widow thing. I put single. When I was celebrating him, I rather celebrated the light moments as opposed to the heavy stuff. So I post videos of, crazy things that he did, or, that for me was better than going through the heavy stuff. Because I didn't want people to say, oh, so sorry. It kept you in a place of depression when everybody said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No. I didn't want that. So yeah, make sure that you're not comparing your journey, your healing process with anybody else.
Yeah, I agree with you on celebrating their life. Mm-hmm. When my sister passed, we chose not to wear black to the funeral. The immediate family, we wore white to celebrate her and to honor her. Mm-hmm. And for every accolade that I have earned and attained, I thank her and I honor her. It's celebrating what I believe would have made her proud or made her happy, or even she may be up there having a hand in. So before we go to the final segment of the show, I want you to tell people where they can stay connected with you, where they can buy the book, where they can learn more from you and about you.
Awesome. So I'm Joan Wright-Good on all social media platforms. So on Instagram, Joan Wright-Good, Twitter, the same. I don't even use Twitter, but everywhere that you consider social media, it's Joan Wright-Good. On Facebook, it's the same thing, Joan Wright-Good. I think I have the doctor somewhere there. I finished my PhD in the pandemic, and that was an amazing thing for me. Didn't get the opportunity to walk, and I'm still trying to see it. Can I walk with the other people? but yeah, you'll see Dr. Joan Wright-Good there. My website is my name as well, Joan Wright-Good. So you can get the book at my website, www.joanwrightgood. My business website is businessstartupacademy.live. I help people to start businesses, to leverage, and to really take one idea and flip it. Are we still there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, because you froze. Right. To take one idea and turn it into millions, and how to create a legacy, and not just to make the money, but I teach them how to keep the money, because making it is easy. I showed my coaching group, and I took them through the process, McKinney, showing them how to make $1 million in 1 week. It took me 2 weeks, but, I showed them all you have to do is to create a $5,000 product and sell that to 200 people, and that's it. And rinse and repeat. So making it is easy. It's making sure that you can keep it and grow it and leave a legacy. That's important. So I do that in the academy. And obviously I do publishing, marketing, and all the other good stuff. So they can find me at the business website or personal website, and they can call my office at 561-412-7772.
Awesome. So I will definitely have all of the links where they can connect with you on your website and your socials in the details section. Awesome. They can just click and connect with you directly.
Yes. Awesome.
And I guess for the final segment of the show, it's more like a rapid fire. You can answer one word or one sentence, but I'm also a bit of a rebel and I don't like to be boxed in. So if you feel like you need to expand, you're free to do so.
Okay.
Okay. All right. What would you say is your superpower?
Okay, so I think my superpower is resilience. My superpower is knowing how to take challenges and turning them into triumphs, turning them into dollars, turning them into cents, and turning them into meaningful stories. So I'd say that's my superpower.
I love it. You see that sign behind me?
Oh, yes. I did see it. I love it. I love it.
Okay. How do you stay motivated?
Oh, I stay motivated. So I would say a couple of things keep me motivated. Obviously, my relationship with God is the first thing that just keeps me going. When I want to stop. My love for God and his love for me is what keeps me going. I'd also say my family, my grandson, love him to death. Every time my daughter sends me a video or a picture or something, I'm like, oh, look at that little. I tell her that that's my son because I wanted a boy, didn't get a boy, so that's really my child. She's a kid. But my family, my immediate family, oh gosh, I have a sister. She is like, I don't know, she's a beast. She will fight for you in the drop of a pin. She'll gun butt anybody. I think she purposely got a gun so she could fight for me. But so yeah, so God, my family, and the will to live. The will to live keeps me motivated. And as much as I don't like to admit it, I love people. Mm-hmm. That's why I do what I do. I love people. I'm naturally an introvert, so go figure. I'm naturally an introvert. And so I don't always like people, but I love people. I like my own space, I get it. But I still love people. So those are the things that keep me going. That keep me motivated.
Okay. When was the last time you apologized to someone?
Ooh, now you do know they say that Black women don't like to apologize.
Because I apologize every day.
I've been working on that. I know that was one of the pet peeves of my husband. So I started working on it. So the last time I apologized, I think that was this weekend. I apologized to a friend. And let me put this out there. I didn't even do nothing. Okay. I didn't even do nothing, but they're good. They saw things through their own lens and their perception. So I was like, but I was good with that. I didn't say, sorry, you saw it that way. Right. I said, sorry, I offended you. Yeah. And I apologize for how that made you feel. Because now there's a difference between sorry and apologizing now.
Yes.
Okay. So I had to use it too. See, I'm learning. I had to use it too. Sorry, I offended you. And I apologize for how that made you feel. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. When and where are you the happiest?
Ooh, I am the happiest when I'm by myself in my house, where I can dance to my own music. I can do my praise and worship. I can eat ice cream and not be judged. I can sleep for 10 hours if I want. I can turn the TV off. I don't really watch TV, but sometimes I'll put it on, something Netflix. So I'm the happiest in that moment. I'm the happiest also when I'm serving. So the dichotomy is weird. I'm the happiest when I'm serving, when I'm inspiring others, when I'm on a stage and people are getting what I'm putting down. I'm the happiest when my clients come back and say, Coach, I did this and this happened, So that's when I'm happiest the most. I'm also the happiest when my kids call me. I tell people I'm no longer a mom. I've transitioned into the role of advisor because I have adult children. So they call me, Mom, how do you do this, Mom? So I feel grateful. So I'm happy. I'm happiest in those moments.
I love that. I love that. I love it. I love it. Okay. Last but not least, what advice would you give your future self?
Golly. So I would say to my future self, don't be so hard on yourself. The past is what it was. The future is what it is. So allow yourself to live a little. Allow yourself to embrace the changes. Still bask in God's will for you. And know that what you're looking for won't always come in the package that you're looking for it in. But nevertheless, it's still the gift that you wanted.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Wow. Thank you so much, Joan, for sharing space and co-creating this experience with me today. Thank you for your time, your energy. Thank you for your vulnerability. Like I said at the beginning, it's not an easy thing to do, to talk about, your struggles, your traumas, your grief, but you do it to make an impact. You do it for the legacy. You do it to be of service. Yes. So thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate you so much. I really do.
Likewise. And to all of you healers out there, until next time, subscribe on all platforms. And don't forget to rate the show and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. We would love to hear, what part of Joan's story did you resonate with? What gems did she leave you with? We'd just love to hear from you. So you can leave us a review there and let us know your thoughts, or you can screenshot this week's episode and you can tag us on Instagram. You can tag Joan at Joan Wright-Good. You can tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith. And I just want to thank each and every one of you that continues to listen each week and help the show globally rank in the top 1.5% of most popular podcasts out there.
Awesome. Wow.
A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. So let's continue to heal her. Yay!